Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when even breathing feels like a burden, when no words can comfort, no distractions can numb, and no effort can lift the weight pressing down on your chest. In those moments, it feels as though time stands still, not in peace, but in paralysis. You may smile in front of others, but inside, you feel like you're slowly breaking. You may carry your responsibilities like nothing is wrong, but behind closed doors, the silence screams. These are not just difficult times, these are defining ones, moments where the pain is not just emotional, it's spiritual. It touches the very core of your being, and in that pain, a question quietly arises. How do I move forward when everything within me wants to stop? This question does not have an instant answer. It cannot be solved through advice or fixed with logic. It must be understood. It must be felt. And if we are willing to turn toward it, not away, if we can learn to sit with the discomfort, observe it, breathe with it, then the path forward, though narrow and quiet, begins to reveal itself, not through force, but through awareness. Pain is not your enemy. It is a messenger, a quiet one, often misunderstood, often feared. When pain arrives, whether through loss, betrayal, failure, or emptiness, we instinctively resist it. We label it as something bad, something wrong, something we must escape, but rarely do we stop and ask, what is it here to teach me? The nature of pain is not to punish, but to point. In the world around us, everything that grows does so through challenge. A seed must break open in the dark soil before it can reach the light. That breaking is necessary. Without it, there is no sprout, no leaf, no blossom. Likewise, within us, the moments that feel like breaking, those moments when the weight is too heavy, the silence too loud, the nights too long, those are the very moments when something within us is attempting to grow. But growth cannot begin until the old shape dissolves. Pain is that dissolving. It softens what we have clung to for too long, false identities, unmet expectations, illusions of control. The problem is not that we hurt. The problem is that we do not listen. We do not observe pain as a signal. We treat it as an interruption. But pain does not interrupt life. It is life. Just like joy, love, laughter. It is one part of the spectrum of experience. The fire that burns also gives warmth. The same storm that floods the valley also nourishes the soil. When pain enters your life, it invites stillness. It does not demand solutions or reactions. It asks for awareness. But awareness is something modern life does not teach. We are taught to solve, to fix, to act. But some experiences in life are not problems to be solved. They are truths to be accepted. Pain is one of them. It comes with a message, but it does not shout. It whispers, and unless we are quiet enough, present enough, we will not hear it. We will instead drown it out with distractions, screens, substances, noise, busyness. But pain is patient. If ignored, it waits, and when it returns louder. This is why awareness is essential. To sit with pain without judgment is not weakness. It is wisdom. You are not broken for feeling deeply. You are awake. Most people do not want to feel because feeling requires presence, and presence reveals truth. Pain, when faced fully, reveals where you have been clinging, where you have been blind, where you have abandoned yourself. Imagine holding a stone in your hand tightly. After a while, your hand aches, not because of the stone, but because of your grip. Life's pain is often like that. It is not the event that hurts the most. It is the attachment, the expectation, the resistance. To let go is not to give up. To let go is to make space for new understanding. In nature, nothing blooms all year. There are seasons of growth, seasons of rest, seasons of decay, but each season serves the whole. Your suffering is not an accident. It is not random. It is a season that carries something sacred, and only in deep presence can you begin to understand what that is. When pain visits, observe it. What thoughts rise with it? What stories do you tell yourself about it? Are you blaming, regretting, fearing, escaping? These are natural responses. But if you sit long enough, a deeper space opens, a space beneath the thought, beneath the emotion. There, you find something else: stillness, clarity, even peace, not because the pain is gone, but because you have stopped fighting it. In that space, you are no longer the victim of pain, you become the witness. And the witness sees clearly. Pain also reveals your values. It shows what matters. It burns away the unnecessary, the superficial, the noise. You start to see who you truly are, not in your achievements, but in your endurance. Not in what you gain, but in how you remain grounded when all else is falling away. The strength you seek is not in avoiding pain. It is in facing it with open eyes. Just as the mountain does not move for the storm, you do not need to collapse when suffering comes. You can remain, you can observe, and you can grow, not in spite of the pain, but through it. Do not rush to remove it. Let it complete its teaching. Pain, when fully felt and understood, leaves behind wisdom. It deepens compassion. It expands awareness. It strips away illusion, and it prepares you for the next chapter, not by making you harder, but by making you softer, more real, more aligned with what truly matters. The path forward, when life hurts too much, does not begin with escape. It begins with listening. It begins by turning inward, sitting in the silence, and honoring what is being revealed. This is the only way the pain transforms. Not through avoidance, but through presence. And so, pain is not the enemy. It never was. It is the guide that walks with you through the night, so that when the dawn comes, you do not just survive the darkness. You emerge with the eyes to see what others cannot. Eyes that have wept, yes, but also eyes that have awakened. The messenger has done its work. Now it is your turn to listen. In moments of hardship, we often find ourselves reaching outward, searching for comfort, for rescue, for escape. But what if the answer is not in the search, but in the stillness? What if moving forward begins not with movement, but with observation? To observe is not to analyze or to judge. It is to become deeply present with what is. There is no force in it, no striving, no trying to make things different. It is a quiet act of awareness, a disciplined willingness to see, to feel, and to remain with whatever is unfolding, without turning away. When we are in pain, our minds tend to run. We want to figure it out, to label it, to explain it, to find someone or something to blame. We create stories around the pain. This shouldn't have happened. Why me? What did I do wrong? But these stories are like smoke. They rise from the fire, but they are not the fire itself. And if we spend all our time chasing smoke, we miss the real source. The source is not in the story. The source is in the sensation. The tightness in your chest, the heaviness in your limbs, the shallowness of your breath, these are not obstacles to healing. They are the doorway, but to walk through, you must observe them without resistance. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. Truth is not always gentle, but it is always freeing. To observe pain is to allow it to show you what it holds. You may find sadness underneath your anger. You may find fear beneath your sadness. And if you stay long enough beneath the fear, you may find silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of presence. A space where nothing needs to be changed and everything is understood. This practice of observation is not passive. It is active stillness. It requires attention, patience, and courage. It is easy to react. It is harder to remain still and watch. But in that stillness, you begin to see the patterns of your own mind. You begin to notice how often you escape the moment, how often you shift into distraction, how often you tighten when something uncomfortable arises, how often you avoid the very feelings that are trying to bring you back to yourself. Pain is not chaos, it has a structure, and that structure can be seen if you are quiet enough. Just as a river follows its course, your suffering moves through the body in waves, with direction, with rhythm. If you resist it, it will crash harder, but if you observe, you learn to float with it, to let it pass without being drowned. This is not about becoming numb. It is the opposite. It is about feeling fully with clarity. When the mind becomes silent, even the sharpest emotions can be witnessed with calmness. It is like standing in a storm and no longer fearing the rain. You realize it is only water. It touches you. It passes. It does not define you. When we observe, we separate ourselves from the illusion that we are the pain. We are not. Pain is an experience that arises within us. It is not our identity. The moment you observe it, you create space between you and the experience. And in that space, healing begins. But the mind will not always cooperate. It will tell you to fix things quickly, to distract yourself, to go back to what is familiar. And sometimes the most familiar thing is suffering itself. So observation becomes a training. Like strengthening a muscle, you return again and again to the seat of awareness. You remind yourself, I do not need to solve this, I only need to see it. With time, what you see changes. The pain that once felt unbearable begins to soften, not because it disappears, but because your relationship to it transforms. It no longer owns you. It no longer dictates your actions. You begin to respond rather than react. You begin to choose presence over avoidance. This is how awareness becomes your path, not through big decisions, but through small moments of returning, again and again to yourself. When you feel triggered, you breathe. When you feel overwhelmed, you sit. When you feel lost, you listen inwardly, and slowly the inner noise fades. What remains is clarity. What remains is truth. There is great intelligence in this silence. It does not speak in words. It speaks through feeling, through intuition, through presence. And as you deepen your observation, this intelligence begins to guide you. It tells you when to act, when to rest, when to let go, when to trust. In this way, observation is not just healing, it is direction. It is the compass that keeps you aligned when everything around you feels uncertain. It brings you back, again and again, to what is real. Not the story, not the fear, but the breath, the body, the moment. And this moment, no matter how painful, is always bearable when entered fully. The suffering multiplies only when we fight it, when we carry the weight of the past or the fear of the future. But the present, however raw, is never too much. It is always exactly what you are capable of facing, if you face it with presence. So, the path forward when life hurts too much does not begin with action. It begins with observation. Sit with what is. Feel it, watch it, let it teach you. Let it strip away what is false. Let it lead you not outward, but inward, to the only place where real healing begins. Forward is not always movement. We live in a world obsessed with speed, progress, and the illusion of constant productivity. We are taught that if we are not moving, we are falling behind, that if we are not fixing, solving, chasing, we are wasting time. But this belief is not rooted in wisdom. It is rooted in fear. The truth is much simpler and much quieter. Sometimes forward is stillness. Stillness is not stagnation, it is not laziness, it is a deliberate, conscious pause, a sacred stopping, like a tree in winter, motionless, bare, seemingly lifeless. Yet beneath the surface, life is reorganizing, preparing, becoming. In stillness, the roots grow deeper, and so do we. When life hurts too much, our instinct is to escape the discomfort by acting. We want to fix the pain, move past it, find something, anything, to give us relief. But real healing does not respond to force. You cannot push yourself out of sorrow. You cannot rush your way through grief. These are not enemies to conquer. They are teachers, and they speak only when you are quiet enough to hear. There are times in life when the most courageous thing you can do is to stop, to sit, to breathe, and to allow what is broken inside you to simply be, without resistance, without judgment, without pressure to change. Because sometimes what is needed is not a solution. What is needed is your full presence. Presence is the essence of stillness. It is not about the absence of activity. It is about the depth of awareness that you bring to this moment. You can sit in silence for hours and be restless in your mind, or you can be still for a breath and touch the vastness of inner peace. Stillness is not measured by time. It is measured by the quality of your attention. When you are fully present with what is, something profound happens. The mind quiets, the stories dissolve, the emotions begin to move, to shift, to soften, not because you are controlling them, but because you are no longer resisting. You are allowing, and in that allowing, you create the space for inner realignment. To stop and be still in a moment of pain takes great strength. It means facing what you have avoided. It means feeling what you have buried. But it also means meeting the truth of who you are without the mask, without the noise. In that stillness, you find that you are not as fragile as you feared. You are not falling apart. You are unfolding. Movement in the worldly sense often means chasing something outside of yourself. A new goal, a new distraction, a new identity to wear so that you do not have to feel the old wounds. But forward, in the truest sense, means returning to yourself. It means becoming more whole, more aligned, more real, and that can only happen when you are still enough to notice what is already within. There are times when rest is not optional, it is essential. Just as the body needs sleep to heal, the soul needs stillness to mend. If you do not give yourself that space, life will force it upon you. Illness, burnout, heartbreak, these are not random. They are invitations to pause. They are reminders that you have gone too far without returning inward. Stillness is a form of respect for your own rhythm, your own process, your own timing. It is listening to the wisdom of the body, which knows when it is time to act and when it is time to rest. It is learning to trust that not every moment needs to be filled, that growth can happen in the quiet, that clarity arises when the dust of constant doing begins to settle. Sometimes, forward is letting go of the need to control, letting go of the belief that healing has to look a certain way, letting go of the pressure to perform strength even when you feel weak, letting go of the idea that progress is always visible. Stillness allows you to feel what is beneath the surface, not just the pain, but also the resilience, the part of you that endures, that watches, that remains steady even when everything around you is changing. You begin to realize that this stillness is not emptiness, it is fullness, full of wisdom, full of presence, full of the life that exists beyond the constant noise. The mountain does not chase the wind. The ocean does not resist the storm. They remain grounded in their being, rooted in their nature. This is the strength of stillness. It is unshakable, not because it moves, but because it remains. When you allow yourself to stop, you begin to remember. You remember who you are beneath the layers of doing, beneath the fear, beneath the pain. You remember the part of you that is not broken, the part of you that has always been whole. Stillness gives you access to that remembrance. It reconnects you to the essence that was never lost, only buried. To be still is not to abandon life. It is to return to it more fully, with clearer eyes, with a quieter mind, with a deeper heart. So when the world says, keep moving, and everything in you says, I can't, trust that whisper. Sit, breathe, be still. That is not weakness, that is wisdom. And sometimes it is the only way forward. Letting go is not the same as giving up. In the midst of emotional pain, when the heart feels heavy and the mind is clouded, we often try to hold on tightly. We cling to people, to beliefs, to memories, to identities. We hold on because we fear what might happen if we release our grip. We convince ourselves that by holding tighter, we are staying strong. but true strength is not in holding on. It is in knowing when to let go. There comes a point on the journey where holding on begins to hurt more than the original wound. The tension in the chest is no longer caused by what happened, but by the story we keep repeating. The suffering is no longer about the person who left, or the opportunity missed, or the betrayal endured, but about the attachment to how it should have been. That attachment becomes the prison, and the key, though simple, is difficult to use: surrender. Letting go does not mean you forget. It does not mean you become indifferent or careless. It means you stop carrying the weight of what is no longer yours to carry. There is a difference between remembering and reliving. One brings reflection, the other brings repetition of pain. When we let go, we are not erasing the past. We are releasing the grip it has over our present. Painful experiences leave imprints on the heart, but they do not have to dictate our identity. We are not the event, we are the observer of the event, and that observer, when clear and quiet enough, knows exactly when it's time to release. The process of letting go begins in the body always knows. The breath becomes shallow when we are resisting. The muscles tense when we are clinging. The heart races when we are consumed by thoughts of what if, or if only. To release, we must first become aware of what we are holding onto, and where. Observe the sensations that arise when you think of what hurts. Where do you feel the tightness? What happens to your breath? These are not just reactions, they are signals. And if we listen carefully, they lead us to the exact places inside that are asking for our attention. Not to be controlled, not to be silenced, but to be acknowledged and gently opened. Sometimes we hold on not because we want to, but because we believe it defines us. We build identities around pain. I am the one who was hurt. I am the one who failed. I am the one who is broken. These identities offer a strange sense of familiarity, but familiarity is not the same as peace, and if we are not careful, we begin to protect the very pain we are trying to heal. Letting go requires honesty. It requires admitting that certain things are not in our control, that not all people will understand us, that not every situation will resolve the way we wish, that closure may never come from others. It must come from within. And from this honesty, a space opens, a space where healing can begin, a space where we can stop forcing outcomes and instead allow understanding to arise naturally, because what we try to force, we often distort. But what we allow with patience and presence becomes clear. The heart does not need to be forced open. It opens naturally when it feels safe, when it feels heard, when it is allowed to soften, and softness is the key. Many people equate letting go with cutting off, with becoming hard or cold, but that is not release, that is suppression. Letting go is not hardening, it is softening into the truth, and the truth is that not everything was meant to stay. Some people come into our lives as lessons, not as lifelines. Some chapters were written not to be repeated, but to be completed. Some dreams were meant to die, so that space could be made for new ones. The wisdom lies in recognizing when something has served its purpose, and having the courage to lay it down. Letting go also means letting go of resistance, the constant mental struggle with reality, the internal voice that says, "This shouldn't be happening," or "It's not fair." These thoughts do not protect us, they bind us. They lock us into a loop of suffering that feeds itself. To stop feeding it is not weakness, it is awakening. To let go is to trust that life is not punishing you, but guiding you. That what leaves is making space for what is meant to arrive, that what breaks you is also shaping you. This trust is not blind, it is born through presence. When you observe life as it is, without the lens of judgment, you begin to see patterns, rhythms, cycles. You begin to see how the hardest moments brought the deepest growth, and with that insight, release becomes easier, more natural. Letting go is not a one-time act, it is a practice. You may release something today and find it back in your mind tomorrow. That does not mean you have failed, it means you are human. Each time it returns, meet it again with softness, with breath, with presence. Each time you choose to release it again, it loses a little more power over you. Eventually, the grip loosens, the memory remains, but the sting fades. The experience becomes part of your story, not your burden, and in its place, space is made for peace, for clarity, for something new to grow. This is the quiet strength of letting go, not loud, not dramatic, but real, unshakable, rooted in wisdom, grounded in trust. It is not about forgetting the past, but no longer letting it shape your future. It is not about becoming someone else, but returning to who you were, before the pain, beneath the pain. And the one who returns is stronger, not because they fought, but because they learned to let go. Awareness is the thread that ties everything together. When the world becomes too loud, when your heart becomes too heavy, and when your path disappears beneath your feet, there is still one place you can turn. That place is awareness. Awareness is not a tool you pick up only when it's convenient. It is not something that only belongs to meditation or silence or spiritual moments. It is always with you. Like the sky that holds every cloud, every storm, every ray of light, awareness holds every thought, every emotion, every experience, without resistance. In the moments of deep pain, we often forget this. We become lost inside the stories our minds create. We say, asterisk, I am broken, I cannot go on, this pain will destroy me, asterisk, but the one who is aware of that thought is not broken. The one who observes that emotion is not drowning. It is only the body and mind that are in chaos. The awareness remains untouched, steady, still. This is not about escape. It is not about avoiding reality. It is about being so deeply present that reality begins to reveal its layers. On the surface, there is suffering, but if you stay, if you watch without flinching, if you do not react or run, you will see what lies beneath. To become aware is not to stop the storm. It is to watch it move across the sky, knowing that you are not the clouds. You are not the thunder, you are the space in which the storm appears. This simple shift changes everything, not because it removes pain, but because it changes your relationship to it. Pain without awareness becomes identity. Pain with awareness becomes experience. There is a great difference. One traps you, the other frees you. Awareness does not ask you to be perfect. It does not judge your thoughts. It does not scold you for feeling tired, hopeless, or afraid. It simply watches. Like a mirror, it reflects exactly what is, without exaggeration, without distortion, and in that reflection, truth becomes visible, but awareness must be practiced, especially when life hurts. Because the instinct is to retreat, to distract, to numb, but none of those reactions dissolve suffering, they only delay it. What you avoid stays, what you observe begins to move. So, when life hurts, begin by watching. Not to fix, not to analyze, but to witness. Watch the breath. Watch how it shortens when a painful thought arises. Watch the hands. Do they tighten? Do the shoulders rise? These signs are messages, and awareness is how you read them. You begin to notice, when I think of the past, my chest closes. When I fear the future, my jaw clenches. When I blame myself, my stomach twists. These are not coincidences, these are clues, and with each observation, a little bit of clarity arises. Not in words, but in presence, you are training your mind not to flee discomfort. You are inviting yourself to stay, and in that staying, healing becomes possible, not through effort, but through openness. The world teaches you to act, awareness teaches you to listen. Listening is not just with the ears, it is with the whole being. When you are aware, you are listening to your inner world. You are listening to the ache behind the anger, the grief beneath the numbness, the exhaustion hidden by the smile, and once seen, it softens, once felt, it shifts, once welcomed, it releases. This does not happen all at once. Sometimes awareness brings more discomfort at first, because you are finally seeing what you have ignored. But this discomfort is not a punishment. It is a purification. You are not falling apart. You are falling inward. Inward, there is a stillness that cannot be touched by fear. There is a silence that does not tremble with anxiety. It is not something you achieve. It is something you uncover. It has always been there, like the ocean beneath the waves. But you can only reach it by diving through the surface noise. There will be moments when the pain feels too much, when the thoughts become loud and fast. In those moments, awareness is not about controlling the storm. It is about anchoring yourself to something deeper. The breath becomes the anchor. The sensation of your feet touching the ground becomes the anchor. The rhythm of your heartbeat becomes the anchor. You return again and again to these simple things, not to escape the pain, but to remain present with it. And with each return, you remind yourself, I am here, I am watching, I am aware. This is the way through. Not pushing forward blindly, not collapsing backward in fear, but walking with open eyes, step by step, guided by awareness. And the beautiful paradox is that as you become more aware of your suffering, you also become more aware of your peace. They are not separate. They are two sides of the same experience. You begin to notice moments of stillness between the waves, a quiet between the sobs, a softness in the sorrow. This is not the absence of pain. It is the presence of something greater, and that presence grows with every breath you take in awareness. It expands every time you resist the urge to distract. It deepens every time you choose to stay, to watch, to feel. Eventually, the pain begins to transform, not because it was defeated, but because it was seen, fully, clearly, without resistance. And what is seen clearly loses its power to control you. This is why awareness is the only way forward. Because it does not depend on external conditions, it does not wait for life to get better. It begins where you are, with what is, right now, always now, and in this now, the path is already open. You only have to walk it, with awareness. There will be times when life hurts so deeply that words fall short, and the world feels too heavy to carry. In those moments, we must remember, pain is not here to break us. It is here to awaken us. When suffering arrives, we are being called not to run, not to fight, but to return. Return to awareness. Return to stillness. Return to the wisdom of letting go. True strength is not found in resistance, but in presence. Growth does not always look like forward motion. It often begins in silence, in the quiet observation of what is. To walk through pain is not weakness, it is transformation. But transformation does not arise from force. It arises from allowing life to be as it is, while you remain fully present with it. Let this awareness guide you not just when life is calm, but especially when it hurts. Let your stillness become your anchor. Let your breath bring you home. Let your inner silence reveal what no noise can teach. And remember, you are not alone on this path. Every being who suffers carries the same longing, for peace, for clarity, for meaning. Walk gently, not only for yourself, but for all who walk this unseen road beside you. Thank you for opening your heart to this message. May your journey ahead be guided by presence, not pressure, by awareness, not avoidance. Whatever life places before you, may you meet it with stillness, with clarity, and with strength that flows not from resistance, but from truth. Good luck on your path. May each step, even the difficult ones, carry you closer to your most honest and peaceful self. Thank you, and be well.